and defend yourself, especially if you just came off having been regarded as the walk-on-water Fed chairman, whom everybody from the left to the right admired. You have Bob Woodward writing about what a genius he was. You have Greg Hipp of the Wall Street Journal, who I think was in Greenspan's pocket for too long, talking about what a genius he was, writing just inconsistently about how brilliant Greenspan was. We all know about the maestro. And so this is, Greenspan has clearly had a hard time of it lately. We shouldn't sympathize, but we can understand at least. And so this is his defense. And again, I like to quote people somewhat at length so that we can make sure we're not misquoting them. And he wrote, this is the Wall Street Journal, there are at least two broad and competing explanations of the origins of the crisis. The first is that the easy money policies of the Federal Reserve produced the U.S. housing bubble that is at the core of today's financial mess. Notice how we can at least give the man credit for not being on cloud nine the way Krugman is, for at least understanding that some people do think that it's not just despite the Fed's best efforts. At least he's speaking to the issue. Next paragraph. The second and far more credible explanation agrees that it was indeed lower interest rates that spawned the speculative euphoria. However, the interest rate that mattered was not the federal funds rate, but the rate on long-term fixed-rate mortgages. That's what spawned the speculative euphoria. Now, let me say that it's kind of fun to read the FOMC minutes. You can the minutes of the Federal Open Market. Excuse me, it's not the minutes. I'm talking about the actual transcript. It goes on for 220 pages every time they have a meeting. But it's available on the Federal Reserve website starting in January of 2004 going forward. And I read it over the course of the last couple of months just by putting on the search function, Greenspan, because I didn't want him to be hung up by what others had said just every time he was saying something. So I got through it pretty quickly and went on to the next. There are jokes they make and all the talk and they engage in, and some of their self-deprecating remarks. It's kind of funny, it's kind of chilling, because these people have so much power, and here they are bantering back and forth about what to do next. But you won't, in 2004 or 5, you won't see a single mention by Greenspan in those transcripts of any concern about the mortgage interest rates being too low, except that it should have been lower. In other words, there was constant concern that maybe it's getting too high, and that we have to, be concerned that that's hurting the housing market. So after the fact, though, he's saying that it was the rate on fixed-rate mortgages that was the problem. Now, let me shift next to an obvious response. Now, what you're seeing is a graph, and it may be a little bit hard to read, but what I did was just try to substantiate something fairly obvious. He's just mentioned fixed-rate mortgages. He makes no mention at all of adjustable-rate mortgages. And I think you know that by 04, 05, adjustable-rate mortgages were beginning to account for more than half of all the new mortgages issued. And perhaps you don't know, and Greenspan is certainly not going to admit to it in this article, that at the same time, he was talking up adjustable-rate mortgages as the best way to go. He delivered a talk before the Mortgage Bankers Association about how important, how adjustable-rate mortgages were just a better deal for people. Now, all I've tried to show up there, which is something that anybody would probably surmise, the federal funds rate correlated with the arms rate on existing homes and on new homes. And you'll see that while the arms rate bounces around, the correlation is clear enough. The Fed funds rate was lowered and the arms rate came down. The Fed funds rate was raised and the arms rate came up. So the only point there is that here is called a slight improvement, a sort of a feint. He's leaving us with the impression that the fixed rate mortgage is the only source of concern, when in fact, obviously, his policy was directly bringing down the arms rate. He was directly a cheerleader for the arms, for mortgage holders going into arms, and also, not surprisingly, once they start to hike rates, the arms rate started to climb as well, and put a squeeze on the bubble economy. Now, that's just a simple way to respond to the Greenspan defense, but of course we to say more broadly and more subtly that in fact an easy money policy pours out money into the market and it will bring down all rates. And if you read Greenspan's assistant, I could have brought in a quote from one of the presidents of the Fed who was saying this, that they were bringing down the 10-year rate by bringing the Fed funds rate down. Greenspan didn't object to the remark. He seemed to agree with it in the transcript, but it wasn't his remark, so we'll say, okay, maybe he didn't believe that. But it was obviously not. The easy money policy was, of course, tending to bring down all rates, as it does. So clearly he was also responsible for the 30-year fixed rate. Well, let's go back to Greenspan, because we want to give him a say. Let's next. This is something else, again, which you'll hear, and you'll hear it from otherwise well-informed economists even. And again, because Greenspan said it must be so, the savings glut. The presumption, now he's talking about what brought down that interest rate for which he had absolutely no responsibility, the fixed rate. The presumptive cause, he writes, of the worldwide decline in long-term rates was the tectonic shift in the early 1990s by much of the developing world from heavy emphasis on central planning to increasingly dynamic, export-led market competition. The result was a surge in growth in China and a large number of other emerging market economies that led to an excess of global intended savings relative to intended capital investment. The excess of savings propelled global long-term interest rates progressively lower between 2000 and 2005. You may know that this is also the mantra of Ben Bernanke, that it was all the evil excess of savings from abroad. Now, one of the amazing things about this is that throughout that period, there were constant complaints that Americans were not saving enough, constant concerns about getting Americans to save more. And by the way, if you read the minutes, at least in 04 and 05, not a single mention was made of this evil glut of savings from abroad that was bringing down the long-term interest rate. The only concern ever expressed was that, oh, it's getting too high, it may choke the market, all kinds of talk back and forth. But nary a reference to this global savings glut that suddenly Greenspan discovers in 2009 as part of his mea culpa. Well, next. Now let's take a look. As a matter of fact, this chart is something I got from John Taylor, the same economist I mentioned, the Stanford economist who developed the Taylor Rule. And it's from the International Monetary Fund, fairly standard measurement of global savings and investment as a share of world GDP in percent. And you'll see it was essentially going up and down, but trending down over time. So the reason they didn't refer to it is because actually something clear was happening. There was indeed more savings from abroad, but because the U.S. was saving far less, the world, U.S. was a major factor sort of bringing this down, the world savings rate was actually declining. So, on the contrary, if anything, from the world savings was affecting interest rates, then it clearly would have brought interest rates up, not down. So, in Greenspan's desperation to defend himself, he will claim things that aren't true, and like Krugman, he will get away with them because it's difficult to believe, I guess, on the part of many, that someone of his probity, the man who knows the numbers, would start making up the numbers when it suits him. Next. Let me now just briefly quote Bernanke. Now, Ben Bernanke, as you probably know, was the Fed governor at the time that all this was going on at the Federal Reserve, and he was very much a party to the low interest rate policy, and so he has felt very strongly that he has to defend his own record. Now, this is from a paper he delivered before the American Economic Association, in which he writes, the economists who have investigated the issue have generally found that, based on historical relationships